Welcome to another installment of This Is Not Normal on the Political Drain podcast with Drill Sergeant Doug, aka Admin Doug, a U.S. Army veteran, teacher, musician, and family man from Jamaica, now fights for justice and democracy through commentary and humor. Follow him on YouTube at Political Drain and at Sons of Liberty Official as Drill Sergeant, aka Admin Doug, continues to protect our freedoms.
That's where you remove the transactions out of your mindset. This is not a transactional society. That's why we have money now, because they've turned reciprocal economies into transactional economies. Nobody's exchanging money. You're doing everything that you would normally do for your community, but without the pressure of having to owe anybody in return. Because since this is long-term relationships, that eventually whatever you're giving back will eventually come back to you in some form or another. Right? So whatever that may be, it's your community is coming to you to take care of you, just as you're going to your community to take care of them. Right? And if you are able to only contribute physically certain things, that's okay, because there's other things that people can contribute outside of anything that is physical.
This seems to
or
me
material goods, so to speak.
okay. This seems to me the perfect time to show what you have here. Can you see this chart?
Yes. Yeah. So when we're talking about colonial frameworks, as much as I loved a lot of my leftists, but there's a lot of leftists that get on my nerves. Leftists, liberals, Democrats, and I think it's well understood that conservatives, MAGA, that's all colonial. But understanding where your ideologies are rooted in and what those ideologies consist of, and the difference between that and then decolonial indigenous systems, right? Capitalism, socialism, communism, they all center either the proletarian, the individual, or the capital, right? None of it centers the land. None of it is based on reciprocal mutual aid in that sense. None of it is based, it's all transactional based. Even when it comes to the land, it's looking at the land as a commodity, not as a relative. So those kind of things, if you're not taking care of the land, if you're not creating things that are or laws or rules or anything within your community that is helping to take care of that land, then you're only contributing to, in the bigger scheme of things, the mass extinction that we're going to have when it comes to global climate change and what is happening to people. And we're already experiencing those things. I live in Colorado. We're going through the worst drought this state has ever seen. And our mountains didn't get enough snow, which means that Colorado River wasn't fed. And that river feeds 5 different states of water.
Yeah.
So you've got to look at not just what you're getting in material goods, but how are you damaging the earth, and what are you guys doing to help kind of repair that as well. And also, I would encourage people to get with their local indigenous tribes in your area. Know whose land you're in, talk to them, build relationships with them. They'll help you. They'll help you understand and learn, if you're willing to do that work.
Outstanding. Okay. And this question, I'm sure you've already answered it, but just to make it super clear, is it just bartering, or are services counted too?
Yeah. So initially, as transitions are occurring, it'll probably be barter, because as you're building relationships with each other, that's probably what will happen. Within a community, traditionally outside of colonial systems, in reciprocal economies work within the community. They and you can make them work from community to community if you're building strong relationships and alliances with those communities. Bartering is not something you do within the community, though. your needs should always be met. You don't need to rely on bartering, right? Everybody is able to come together and say, hey, hey, I need some help over here with fixing this, my roof, it's leaking. All right, cool, we got you. The community comes and helps you out, or hey, something's going on over here. We need some help because look at the levee is falling apart. We all need to come together and put it together. That's coming together for the safety of the community. So everybody is collectively working together to make sure the community functions, right? So you don't need to barter with each other because everything you do within the community is going to be helpful to the community. So bartering typically works from community to community. But if you can build a relationship with other communities, you don't even need to barter at that point. You can then just extend your network of reciprocal economy. So you can have multiple small communities that are linked together and share for each other. Hey, this community over here, like we don't got electricians in my community. So over here, they might have electricians and we're having issues with our power. We can go over there because we've built relationships with them and said, hey, you guys mind helping us out? So it literally goes back to everybody literally being dependent on each other into their own communities and not being dependent on a government entity or a corporate entity.
So everybody has sent these questions, and they're not watching now. Of course, we're recording this, and it's going to come out Wednesday tomorrow. But I think that this question is a great one, but not the way that they put it. This question is to someone who hasn't heard everything you just said. Is there hard numbers we can look at that shows that it helps people? But this is before they understand what gift economy means, the difference between everything that you've just explained. But I think it's a great question in the proof of how this works, which goes back to history and the knowledge of the thousands of years before we had what we have now. Give me to the skeptic the proof that this works.
Well, the proof is in the pudding. It was working for thousands of years. Pre-colonialism, we didn't have money, we didn't have things. Societies did trade and barter with each other, but within societies, you were taken care of. The other thing is like even with social media and the content that I put out, I am getting people who are sending me DMs or comments and things like that that are taking the information that I'm giving them and establishing these kind of smaller gift economies within their neighborhoods. So people are already starting to look at this because they're recognizing that, hey, when shit hits the fan and we don't have money or the economy completely collapses and our dollar ain't worth nothing, then what are you going to do? How are you and your communities going to survive, right? So thinking in the long term, going back to what we know worked for thousands of years before money ever came into the system. So like I said, there is transition periods. Not everybody is going to go straight into a gift economy or a reciprocal economy because that is based on relationships. If you don't have good relationships, you're not going to have a reciprocal economy. It's just as clear as that. So in the meantime, trade and barter systems, but also be mindful that as you're doing trade and barter systems, just build those relationships. So now it no longer becomes a I have to trade with you for this at this point in time, that I can come back to you in 3 months. Let's say seasonal, right? Those that grow food. Well, I can't, if I'm good at growing food, but I can only grow seasonal food, then I can't give tomatoes and all of this all year round. I'm going to give it when it's seasonal. So in a few months, you'll get the things that I'm able to give. And, in the meantime, I'm still taking in the things that I need, but I'm also able to give what I need, maybe not right now, but later. So that's how you build those systems where it's not one for one trade, immediate trade. It's long-term relationship building, like a family. If you're in your family with your spouse and your kids, and maybe even a grandparent or something like that lives with you, everybody contributes to the family. If you do something, if I take my kid to practice, I'm not expecting my kid to repay me immediately, but they're going to help with doing the chores around the house to make sure the house is cleaned up, right? So they're providing and they're contributing to the household just as I am. So sometimes we make it way more complicated than we need to. When if you look at just how a family unit functions, that's a natural way of being. How you provide for your family, how your family provides for you. You're going to provide their needs, they're going to provide needs to you. Even kids give things to the family. Even little kids, toddlers, what are they providing to you? Patience,
Mm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
What are your elders who um can't really do a whole lot anymore, don't walk a lot? What are they providing to you? Wisdom,
Mm-hmm.
knowledge. So you are giving back, not just in material goods, but also if one community has knowledge on how to get a better system to collect water and filter it, why not share that knowledge? That's reciprocal. Oh, and hey, the community that you share the knowledge on how to get clean water, maybe they know how to till the land better or work the land better, and you're having trouble growing. That's reciprocal. We're going to help you show how to get clean water. You help us work the land so we can grow food. You see how you kind of you build upon it, and you build those relationships, and you build those networks over time.
In my neighborhood, when we started this, so first of all, we have something called the wants and needs directory. It was the way for number one to get people to buy into putting their names and their stations in life, like what things that they do, and their needs, and maybe their own business, on a piece of paper and letting someone hold it when it's presented that way. And it came after a few other neighborhood meetings and playing guitar around the campfire and having fun and marshmallows, just getting to know them. This, I've always been putting in the idea that knowledge is way more important. If you know how to farm, I don't want your tomatoes. I want you to hold a class on farming, right? I want you to teach me how to do that shit. And if you have chickens, I want those eggs, because I know you got more eggs than you could ever use every day. I know it. I know how that goes. And so said, so done. Like they're overwhelmed with eggs. But anyway, but I also would like to know how to build a coop, and I can use that knowledge to build something else. These classes, the idea of knowledge as a commodity has to be, in my opinion, on the front of everyone's mind, because it's not what you can consume is on the front of mind at all times here. And I'm here to remind us that knowledge is so much more important to trade with and to utilize and to ask for and to give away than anything that you have physically. Unless I know if you're hungry, food is very important. But I also know that if it comes with some knowledge, it's going to be way more fulfilling in the end. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say.
No, but that's true because knowledge allows you to be self-sustaining, right?
Yep.
So even with my organization, explaining to them as we're completely restructuring through these systems as well, and explaining that, you know, doing food distro is great. But what happens when, feds come in? Or
Mm-hmm.
what happens when we try to get stopped from doing these things? Or what happens if, they find ways to stop us from food distro? Can our community survive without the food distro?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you doing things as here's food distro for temporary needs, but in the meantime, how are we going to make sure that the community is food sustainable on their own?
So this is what I was going to say. Every food distro has to also come with a knowledge packet, right? Right. That's how. Honestly, if I'm giving you something, it needs to come with the talk, the pamphlet, the learning of something else that has to do with what you're giving. The how to keep the seeds of this apple. How are you going to plant the apple seed when it's done? If you have a box of apples, it comes with a pamphlet on how to take care of the seeds, where to store them, and how to plant them, right? So we've got to be thinking on that term. Last question here. By number one, you know who you are. Is it counterproductive to have multiple small networks? Is it consolidating? Is consolidating preferred, or is there any advantage to having diverse networks that might overlap some?
Well, kind of like what I stated earlier, you're going to have to build your smaller networks first. Um, and then you can then have multiple networks that work together, that whether it's overlapping together. There's different kind of, like, even in indigenous systems, like our larger city state cultures, like, well, more well known are like the Maya, the Inca, the Aztec, right? So they had larger city states, but they had multiple neighborhoods. Each neighborhood had their own leadership, their own governance, and then they all contributed to the society as a whole. So whatever they had as far as material goods, whatever they had extra would go to like a central location for not hoarding, but for, stock. If there was to be, for example, that would be the stock for mutual aid, right? Let's say this region over here is a community that,
And taxes. Let's not front. They took them taxes too. The 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 leadership or the higher up.
well, tribute wasn't about taxes. It was about everybody bringing in whatever they can give to the whole that was extra, right? So not necessarily filling the immediate needs, but there's extra, so we can give tribute. Giving a part of the tribute gives you access to the mutual aid. Right. So basically, what that is like, for example, if there was a neighborhood that got hit with, like, maybe they were closer to a river and it over flooded, heavy rains came down, over flooded, and it just destroyed parts of that. So part of your food storage is now gone, things like that. Because you've already given tribute to the bigger community, then you go to the bigger community and say, hey, we lost this amount of food. And the community says, okay, cool, no problem, give you the food. So they're just making sure that it gets distributed evenly to people who need it when emergencies arise, right? So you're still getting all your needs met, but you're also giving a tribute to, here's, let's say I grow corn. We'll just make it real simple, right? Let's say I grow corn and I grow enough that feeds my community and we have excess. And all the other communities, I'm able to give them excess corn too. But I give a certain percentage of that corn that is excess, not what I don't, things that I no longer need. I give that a percentage of that to the like town square, the neighborhood square, so to speak. So in times of emergencies, every neighborhood has access to that when it's needed. It's already there, it's ready to go, it's ready to be distributed, as in a mutual aid, right? So that's what the quote unquote taxes was that tribute. So it wasn't, we're taking your money, we're taking your things as leadership and hoarding it and then using it against you or using it as a power control. It's, we're going to help manage it over here. We're not going to touch it. We're not going to get into it. We're not doing anything. We're helping managing it and then distributing it evenly to those who need it in times of need. In the meantime, everybody else is still functioning reciprocally with each other, right? So you can build multiple networks and they can grow to large area networks. But the importance of all of that is to also making sure that each area, each community remains autonomous. They remain sovereign states or cities or whatever you want to call it, but they remain autonomous for their own. They're making decisions for their own community, their own neighborhoods or whatnot. And as you expand, right? You also don't want to get too large to where you are no longer allowing for voice to the people. So multiple networks, while empires over here looked huge, they were actually just multiple small networks everywhere. So even within a city, multiple neighborhoods as networks, and then even outside of the city, when they expanded, it was multiple villages all over the place that were interconnected networks with each other. So it made it look large, but they were all interconnected and mutually working together. Um, You'll find that even in societies in Africa, in India, and even older societies, pre-colonialism, 3,000 years back with Europeans. Same thing, multiple networks just worked. And you could have larger city states because of that. But if you notice, none of them ever really got way bigger than any what like the countries we have now.
Yeah.
They never got to be too big. And even if they did, they would start breaking themselves apart and dispersing out because maybe they were doing too much harm to the land. Because that was always first and foremost, right? Um, Real quick, like if you guys ever watch the History Channel on how the History Channel's like, where did the Maya go? They just disappeared. Nobody knows what happened to them,
Right.
right? They do that all the time, but the Mayas are still here. They still
Yeah.
exist.
Hello.
Yeah, so they but they're like the Spaniards arrived and their civilizations, they walked away from their cities. These cities were already abandoned, like all this dramatic shit that they put out there. And it was like, well, they realized that their cities got too big. They were causing climate change, they were causing droughts, and they had to recognize that. And we're not perfect people. We made mistakes. When they recognized, they left the cities to allow the cities to heal, to let the earth grow over them again, take control back. And they dispersed and they separated these larger city states into smaller villages that were more sustainable to the land. So
Outstanding.
it's things like that where you recognize that it's not sometimes these great big mysteries, or we're not building utopias, and we made our mistakes too, but it's about how you learn from those mistakes, and then how you redirect, right? How you refocus and how you course correct from those things, not repeat the mistakes. We actually learned from history.
Yeah. How about that? So, well, let me say this. Outstanding answer. Thank you so much. And I know, number one, you're going to get a lot from that because we'll be talking later about just that question. So, that was the last question from them. I want to say this: if you enjoyed this lesson, I'm trying to keep it as focused as possible, so we're not, because these types of subjects that they can go gigantic, right? And they can also lose impact in exactly 3 minutes. So the Instagram way of doing a lesson like this is so sporadic. It's so, you have to dig through so many things to connect the dots. I'm hoping that this becomes a middle, and I'm talking to the audience, hoping that this becomes a middle, a good class, a way to take away as much as you actually need and do further introspection or curiosity driven, movement on your own to develop something, to go somewhere. I want to keep on doing this, and I like this length. I think this is good, but I want down there in the comment section for you to ask the questions that you have after this. We're going to do another one. I think lesson 2 should go into some Native American history, into these different empires, into the rights and the wrongs that they did. We'll come up with it. I'll present it to you on Signal to see what's up. But I think lesson 2 may be about that. But we're going to try to start every new lesson with answers from what's down there in that comment section. So if you're watching this, I'm not sure how many times, if it's going to be once a week or if it's going to be once a month or twice a month. I'm not sure. But when we come back again with lesson 2, the first thing we're going to do is run through what I think are the most important or eminent or interesting questions that you have from this show. I hope to see you down there. I hope that we're all working together for what's to come next. I hope we all realize the necessity of it. Even if you find a different way, I hope that whatever you learn from this is going to help inform those ways. All right. And that's the best I can do for you. The best I can do is bring you the knowledge, man. I can't make you drink the water. But yeah, I appreciate you so much. Go ahead.
I'll just add that use your imagination. Like I can give you foundational principles, right? Like build relationships, right? But use your imagination on how you do that. Use your imagination on who you build relationships with. When I talk about building relationships with farmers, people are like, Oh yeah, they do have a lot of food that they don't sell that ends up getting wasted. Why not go build relationships with them to get that free food?
How about relationships with grocery stores that also have food they don't sell, or with restaurants that also have food they can't sell? There's something you haven't thought of that you will think of if you think about the principle.
Use the principle as your foundation and then use your imagination to come up with it. When you're asking questions, kind of remember that. Like, I can answer specific questions to some degree, but also it's always going to be about your community needs. If you know your community's needs, you work with your community to recreate. This is the beautiful part of it all, right? Out of all the destruction, right? Out of everything that's happening, we get to rebuild what we want. And that should be the inspiration there, not what they want, right?
I am not going to say anything after that. The time to fight is now, YouTube. Thank you so much, Melinda.
Thank you.
I am not going to say anything after that. The time to fight is now, YouTube. Thank you so much, Melinda.
Thank you.
Hey, yeah, you. Before you click away to watch someone unbox a tactical toothbrush, let's talk about something real. Political Drain isn't just another content mill. We're a digital front in a very real war. Not with bullets, but with ideas, with action, and with solidarity. We pair urgent news with critical education. And we build community around actual resistance, not the hashtag kind. The kind that moves. But here's the thing. None of this is free. It isn't. Behind every video is time, labor, research, and some weird guy asking if we're going to pay the hosting bill. And yeah, some of that money goes to things we can't necessarily say out loud. If you know, you know. Let's just say our special ops aren't Call of Duty LARPers. They're people making real moves to protect, uplift, and organize. You're not just funding a channel. You're funding a resistance network in a world where capital still calls the shots. Unfortunately, in a system built on artificial scarcity, even mutual aid has a price tag. And if we want to grow, if we want to win, we need your help. We need your help. So if you've got even a few bucks to spare, toss it our way. It's not for ads. It's not for merch drops, but for people making moves in the shadows so others can do it in the light. It's just us and you. So fund the mission, fund the fight, fund the future, because nobody's coming to save us. We save each other. That's how this works.
That was the Political Drain podcast, which can be heard on www.groovechillradio.com/political-drain and can be viewed on the Political Drain YouTube channel anytime. Once again, thank you for listening to Groove Chill as we resist fascism in any form, pursue democracy, peace, and love.